as a group went together and signed for the first fracking in the actual area of Loudonville, other than like county region. As far as Elaine said, a couple of the houses that didn't sign are up for sale now, but for the majority of this little area here up the road will be the first frack site in Loudonville.
And do they have river access with that? Is that where they get the river access?
The river access, this barn down here right behind McDonald's was the last one that just
as far as river access, they are withdrawing water from the village of Loudonville, from the city of Ashland, and then we have the Tucker Water Farm that's on the state line.
And I think Augustine has river access.
So they have to. Okay, so we'll get into that a little bit more when we get to the rally of how the things that we have and we know.
So this kind of prompted our action down here today because it's hitting so close to home for a lot of people who live in this area. It's going to change the whole outlook of Loudonville. There's hills that are signed. Previous hills, they've just leveled the whole top of them off and put frack pads on. So we're not sure what they're going to do, where the pad is going to be. They never tell you where the pad is going to be. They just have you sign and you go by faith that they'll put it in a safe place. They could put it wherever they want to. That hill could be forever changed. We don't know what they're going to do with it. But there have been frack sites where they have completely leveled off the whole back range or it's important that we speak up. If you love this area and you love the looks of it, it's great that you guys are here. Please share with your neighbors. We can't emphasize that enough. Neighbors are signing. If your neighbors sign, then you live by it. But not only that, they have free access to your yard to put in the pipelines. You can't fight it. They have eminent domain to put the pipelines into your yard. So if your neighbors sign, it affects you more than you realize. But this is the first area in your area. There's oil signs headed down 3 towards Millersburg area. If you drive down that way, there's more and more oil signs coming up every day. And they're getting closer and closer to Loudonville. So you guys have to speak to your neighbors about it. Right?
Really? It's not like those, my mom's actually talking about our age.
Was that Mohican Basin?
Yes.
Yeah, he was on the road.
And Carl Ayers
We
went
literally
and
went
talked
past
before.
That might be interesting.
Look up Local Bean on Facebook and they'll have it posted.
That's my
Sorry for more quickly.
Hang on.
I do a lot of work with the pipelines on social media through different actions such as this. This is my daughter Red Hawk. She is director of Standing Rock by way of line 3. By way of line 3. She was fighting line 3. Good. See, I told you guys. Okay, we'll start again. My name's Kim Dupree. We do a lot of social media work against the pipelines, both oil and natural gas. There's a lot of scary things going on right now. First and foremost is your government does not generally care. We have to vote those people out of office. Those are the ones who just don't care. We sat at a Hubbard town meeting the other night on the rejection well. When everyone in town got done voicing their objections to it, basically the industry representative, state representative said, yeah, but we're going to go ahead anyways. That's what we're faced with. Our strongest tool, and the reason I'm here to talk, because there's different sections people are talking about, is about the power of divestment. We need to, the only way to hurt these corporations is to take money from them. That's all they care about. Our nation runs at a surplus in this country of natural gas. We're becoming one of the leading exporters of natural gas in the world. We don't need these new lines. All these lines being fracked are strictly for the benefit of the few. They don't bring tons of jobs. There's very little maintenance along these lines once they're buried, and the compression stations along the way only hire a handful of employees. They will tell you it's for employment. It's not. Those jobs are very temporary, and they don't give a damn about what they do to your land. I'll tell you that right now. They will tear it up. They will walk away. They will take a $20,000 fine because it's cheaper for them to take that fine than to fix your land. Okay? The only way to do it, I can give you a list of banks who are currently funding pipelines, but we all know who they are. Let's start with Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase. Anybody's got a Chase account. ING is funding them. We thought PNC was, but we're not clear on that. Many of the Japanese banks are funding them. Bank of China, Bank of Japan is another one. Deutschland Bank, I don't know, I doubt anybody has an account at Deutschland Bank, but hey, if you need to know that now, you do. So, the idea of divestment is to pull your money out of that bank. But that's not enough. I can go take my $8 out of Chase Bank and they don't care, okay? The point is, tell the people, tell the clerk at the counter the reason you're taking your money out. Tell the branch manager the reason you're taking your money out. Call the district manager, tell them the reason we're taking your money out. Have your friends take their money out. Have them tell everyone the reason they're taking their money out. They need to know this is not acceptable at any point. Is funding a pipeline acceptable? This is just not, we don't need it. It's not for us, right? They're committing genocide. Another thing is you'll hear about a lot of the native land. Now my children can speak better on that, but you have to remember native land comprises 2% of the United States, but holds 5% of the natural resources. That's one of the prime focuses for native land. It's also a prejudice, let's face it. They're not, if you ran a pipeline through your cemetery, can you imagine what happened? Can you imagine what would happen should they put a natural gas pipeline through your cemetery in town? They wouldn't be alive. Okay? They have run pipelines through native cemeteries, sacred burial grounds. Okay? And I'm not just here to talk about native rights. Like I said, these guys are doing way better than I do. Here to talk about the investment and very loud trucks. Water pollution, air pollution, destruction of land. How about eminent domain? It was just like, I remember the one speaker said, yeah, they're going to take your neighbor's property, then they have every right in the world to seize your land by eminent domain and you get nothing. Okay? If you guys don't fight this now, if you don't start building a movement, and it's not just, it's awesome that everyone is here today, but next time you got to bring all your friends. And that's the only way to talk about this, is to talk about people who don't know, because let's face it, we all know here, right? Everybody knows this is a bad thing. Spread it out there. I'm going to introduce my kids to you, all right? She's not my kid, but she will be soon. So, this is my daughter, Red Hawk. This is my son, Christian. This is Matthew. Brooke. Pardon? Oh, good.
The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
The people
united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
The people united will never be defeated.
Hey, what's your petroleum taste like? You like petroleum? Is it yummy? Make you feel good inside?
Not in my water.
I'm pretty sure water is healthier than petroleum, dude. Look it up. I'm not a
Saving the
scientist.
water for your son and his children. Can you drink water when it's been fracked?
Water is life. Minnie with Johnny.
Hey, kid, get online and look it up, man.
Suppose you don't really care about your son, do you?
I care more about your son than you do.
Honestly,
man.
all about the money.
honestly,
How much money you got? You got enough money, then that's what they're after, is the money.
you know, they're here to make us look silly now.
Come on over here and hear some
Buy
truth.
a lot of Nestle water. You're gonna need it, man.
Yeah, he's intentionally agitating. There's no way you're sure how
People like that actually could be paid by the companies who are trying to
They're
sell the
going to
land.
try
Oh, they
to
are.
make us act out. Best way to handle is with class. Speak to him if he speaks to you. Be nice. Don't resist the urge to punch
Stay
him
across
out.
the street.
Ignore the bad.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
he'll
the
stay
point.
across the street.
That's the point. Just don't give him the attention he wants. Anyways, yeah,
Red-
security's here.
Red Hawk, if you want to, yeah, that'd be great. Talk about what that is like out in Stanton.
Segue into what we should do for security.
How that opposition
Infiltration.
faces.
And people getting
Oh yeah, when we were
goats.
at Standing Rock, it was we were surrounded. We were in a war. It was a camp we were in, and we were surrounded by 2,500 National Guard. 12 different state sheriffs came. 20 different states. Highway Patrol came.
Mercenaries.
Yeah, private security, National Security, Piper Swan, who was a branch off of Blackwater Security over in Iraq.
And paid for by.
All paid for by Big Oil. All paid for by those guys. But it was
Red Hawk, they may not know, some of these people here may not know what Standing Rock is.
okay. So Standing Rock was the Dakota Access Pipeline, and when this pipeline was first introduced to the people, it was supposed to go through Bismarck, North Dakota. Now the people of Bismarck didn't want it there, so the Dakota Access Pipeline decided they were going to put it through the reservation because nobody really cares about the people there. And where they went through a friend of ours, her son was buried, and they desecrated his grave. They took land. They did horrible things. They'll do whatever they want to. It doesn't matter if it's your yard. They'll take it. It doesn't matter if your relatives are buried there. They'll take it. They'll bribe you. They'll bribe your friends. No. I mean,
It's a matter of time before they run out of leaders.
Okay, and not only did we have those guys on the outside, but a lot of people have heard about stories about a woman named Red Fawn. Essentially, her boyfriend was FBI informant, basically. So we had people on the inside that were mingling as somebody would come in here, and and many of them are paid by the companies. It happened quite often on the Mariner 2 East pipeline to a family called the Gearhart family. They just actually arrested the mother. They eminent domain to her land. They threatened her for months and months, and now they just filed charges the other day and picked her up with 4 officers. They're asking for $25,000 bond, and they don't even want to offer a bail for things like, she tried to bait the bear to the easement. Now, this company just came straight through, cut her 40 acres in half, and she's out doing her composting, and she's in jail. The guys will try and make up fake Facebook accounts. They will slander, a lot of people like to get really involved in what we like to call trolls, okay, and trolling around and getting really involved in arguments. Sometimes those things are educational, other times they're just detrimental. So you kind of have to pick and choose what battles you're going to want to go through. An overall thing, none of us really want a war. So overall, at some point in time, we do have to talk to all these people. We might not be able to do it at that point in time, but Outside infiltration is not uncommon in the community. Somebody that's always trying to tell you, well, you don't really want to be over here, you really want to be over here. Well, hey, look what kind of money you can make over here. You know, it's just kind of the same thing as any other drug, what they, you know, say with peer pressure.
Can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Can you tell them about the 8 people that were arrested today and how that worked?
The 8 people.
6 people. Okay, so
Six people, okay?
I'll tell you about it.
Okay, so if you want to take pictures, you can. When we were smudging, that was part of the ceremony, and then we will have our water ceremony, and that'll be another no picture taking.
People or 6 people.
We'll walk.
Investment and like the number in your group really, you don't need 20,000 people to go to a divestment. 6 people last year went to U.S. Bank in Washington and had a protest there for divestment, and the U.S. Bank pulled from, I don't know, 12 from, they were funding 12 different pipelines, and they pulled funding for all of that right there, which stopped a couple of those pipelines indefinitely.
Thank you. So the point is divestment works, okay? I guess was there anything else you wanted to cover?
I guess I'll go a little bit further. So there's other groups that are working across the country to try and push divestment. Pretty much every pipeline fighter across the country and around the world also pushes divestment. I'm also part of a group called Stop ETP Coalition. Basically, a group came out to us to bring together the 5 camps that were fighting against Energy Transfer Partners, which is Dakota Access Pipeline, Two Rivers Camp, which is Enbridge. Sorry, wait, you confused me. Two Rivers, which is Trans-Pecos Pipeline down in Texas, Bayou Bridge, which is going on right now down in Louisiana, Mariner East out in Pennsylvania, and Rover, which is going through this whole area.
Watch cars coming.
The Atlantic Coast. Well, this is just our group is just the major focus on Energy Transfer Partners. So what we chose as our thing is to focus on U.S. Bank. Other groups have decided to go straight after Chase Bank. Other groups have gone straight after Wells Fargo. So there's huge divestment campaigns going across the country to try and do events in solidarity with other areas. So the idea is one group has an event out in Seattle, while another one has one in Michigan, another one in Pennsylvania, all on the same time at the same day. So we're putting together our media things because the trouble that we have is that there's so many little of us in so many different areas that we're all doing these things on ourselves, and we're trying to figure out how to put everybody together so that we can support one another and nobody gets left back in the dust, essentially.
Another thing about divestment. Last month, the country of Ireland divested from fossil fuels. Okay, the Church of England has divested from fossil fuels. Seattle has divested from fossil fuels. New York has proposed to divest from fossil fuels. If there isn't something to it, countries wouldn't do it. Okay? I don't think there's anything. We're good? We're
Does
good.
everybody understand divestment?
And we
Take your money out and complain. That's
cash.
Yes. Are there any questions for our group? We have time. We can answer any questions that you might have.
Can you briefly repeat the names of the banks that you should divest from?
Bank of America, any Wells Fargo bank, any JP Morgan or Chase Bank, ING, trading commodities.
Bank of China.
Bank of China, Citibank, Dominion, Chase Dominion, ING, US Bank, Chemical Bank, Citizens Bank, SunTrust, Bayern LB, who else have I got? Deutsche Bank, but like I said, I don't know. TD Securities, you see their commercials on TV all the time. TD Securities is funding pipelines left and right. So don't invest in TD Securities.
I mean, and one of the important things is that, and to simplify the names, it's almost every big national bank
Right,
out
every
there
national bank
is invested in pipelines. So the idea is to take money out of that and invest it in your own community where you have a say in what your money's being spent on.
Right.
And a lot of that just starts with starting to ask questions. You know, I mean, sometimes the way to educate some of these people is to go into the bank and just say, people like to come to their own conclusions, so sometimes asking them questions seems to work out better. Are you aware that they put this much money into this, and how much, where does that money really go? And I'm sure you're happy to have a job, but how much do you really like your job in comparison to what that's doing to the world? because it's really going to take the small communities, breaking back into small communities and building back up to create a whole new structure. That's going to take time. You know, we didn't really get in these problems overnight.
There's a greater purpose to this. We aren't just trying to stop these banks. We're not just trying to stop pipelines, although that's a lot of it. But we're trying to help with the climate change also before we're extinct.
Yeah.
Okay? We are running ourselves out of the planet. Now they're charging for water. What is that? Tell your granddaughter he has to pay for water. That's unfathomable to me. The point is we have to stop this. Think climate change is real? Tell that to Puerto Rico. Okay? Tell that to the Virgin Islands. Right? Or the polar bears. We could go on.
I have something quick I want to say. If there's any landowners here who need help defending their land, I have information. I will give you my information. I would like to help with anybody, so if you guys have land that's threatened, let me know, please.
And with that said, we have our, if you look on the signs, we do have an email address. It's Ohio Tri-County Coalition, and if you reach out to us, we will put you in touch with people you need. And what we are saying here is that there are people that are willing to come here to help us.
Can't hear you.
There are people willing to come here to be on the front lines with you. You are not alone here. How I got started in this, my background was in the mountains, dealing with dirty water. And I would be down there fighting coal companies that poison people and wouldn't tell them. And I thought, that's just Appalachia. Then I come to Ohio, and I live in northern Ashland County. And I started seeing all these pipelines go in. And we stood on the Utopia East Pipeline, which runs just south of Cole. We stood with 5 people to stop a pipeline symbolically. So when we did that, we were a part of a national campaign. We are here today as a part of a national campaign. It's, if you do the hashtags, it's hashtag Rise Together. It's a part of the Energy Transfer Partners Group, but it's more than pipelines now. I tell a story quite often of my background. My father was from the Danielville National Forest in Appalachia, and my mother was from the coal fields in West Virginia. And when I'd spend summers in Appalachia, I would see what coal industries had done, how bad it was. And then when I go over to my grandma's side, that is when I would go to my grandmother's side, then it was beautiful. It was beautiful mountains, and I knew what it was supposed to look like. As a little girl, I was not allowed to go up on the mountains with the boys. They would go up every summer, and I'd spend summers with my grandma. And I was not allowed to climb the mountains as a girl. My grandma said there's snakes up there. And they found a copperhead one day, and she came back, and she was telling the story. She says, if you cut the tail off of a snake, it's going to wiggle away. If you cut the head off of that snake, it's going to die at sunset. So Cabot Oil is the head of the snake, and this is what we need to do to recognize it. Without our water, they cannot frack us. It stops here. So we have other speakers. So we wanted to take control of the space, and we have done that. So we have some local people that we'd like to talk about, but before we do that, I'd like to wrap up the pipelines, if we can do that. We talked about Utopia East, that runs through Ashland County. Rachel's going to talk about Nexus, which is the next pipeline site that we have. Nexus runs across Ohio, and you need to understand all of these pipelines are coming from southeastern Ohio. This is the Marcellus and the Utica Shale, and they are fracking everybody. There are wellhead explosions, there are pipe leaks, there are pipelines falling into from erosion, from unstable conditions. These are the things that we're dealing with. So here in our county, I'm going to talk Rover. We started, some of us in this group started working the Rover Awareness Program. When we started that about 4 years ago, we knew Rover was coming. And we couldn't get people here to listen to us. It's another pipeline, that's all it is. Well, that another pipeline came through our county, and we have two 42-inch pipelines side by side. That's 6.5 feet of fracked gas coming at you. And it got worse. Our county commissioners, who didn't bother to come to our meeting last week and aren't here this week, made a deal
They put it on the ballot last year that they could make all decisions for Ashland County. So they do. And they made a decision to allow Rover to come through our county 80 feet from our emergency management director's front window in his office. So if that pipeline blows, we have no emergency management. Right next to the health department, they're gone. We would lose soil and water. We would lose our community. We would be on our own, basically. So I'm going to turn this over to Rachel next. And Rachel is an Oberlin College student. She's been working with us, or she's been doing Nexus. I've been working with her. And she has to run to her car for a moment. So what she's going to talk about are some of the things that we've done. We have done actions on the Nexus pipeline. Students have walked onto a job site with coffee and donuts, and if you walk onto a job site, they gotta shut it down. OSHA says they gotta shut it down. If you are looking at something that's happening, you have to look at as an action. You always 9 times out of 10 are gonna. So if you wanted to stand over here in this parking lot with your signs next Saturday, that's your right. You stand in the right of way, that's your right to do so. And you're gonna find that we have local support. We have support up in Oberlin. They are understanding our cause, and we have laws that so far in Ohio allow us to do that. If anything shows up on the ballot that tries to take those laws away from us, that protesting is going to be a criminal offense, we have to fight it with everything we got. So that's where we're going. And so I'm going to turn this over to Rachel for a few minutes and let her talk about the Nexus pipeline and some of the things that we're doing up there to put a damper on it.
Okay, hi, I'm Rachel.
Hi, Ray.
Hi. As Lily said, I'm a student at Oberlin College, and I've been working on the Nexus pipeline fight for about a year. The pipeline only runs through about 50 feet of Oberlin, but we're the only city that has continued to fight. There's something going on. Has continued to fight until the very end. We've not accepted a settlement for the pipeline, but and our suit actually very recently was just settled in court, but even when it wasn't settled, they were still tearing apart that 50 feet and laying the pipe in the ground. So some of the things that we've been doing have involved direct action. It's involved campaigns with city council and continuing to fight this. And actually what I wanted to talk a little bit about was how the fight here and the fight with the Nexus pipeline relates to the global call to action that we're currently participating in. So, Bayou Bridge Pipeline Fight and Appalachians Against Pipelines, which are fighting Mountain Valley and Atlantic Coast, and Camp White Pine all released a global call to action. It's called Rise Together, and it's for 2 weeks. It was July 16th through the 31st. And they were calling for people who couldn't come to their camps or couldn't actively fight those pipelines across the country and across the world to participate in this larger fight, which is campaigning against the fossil fuel industry and the financiers of the fossil fuel industry. Essentially, the people who are funding pipelines are funding the desecration of native lands, they're funding the destruction of our land and our water, and they're sacrificing the well-being of millions of Americans for their own pockets. And that's pretty sucky. So I'm really happy that all of you guys are here participating, and I just wanted to remind you that this is a global fight and it extends beyond Cabot Oil and extends beyond Nexus. And I wanted to show you guys something that we did at one of our actions for the Nexus pipeline. It says, draw or write your vision for climate justice in Oberlin, but people took it beyond and they drew about our world. So it says justice means good food for all. It says justice means trees full of love, a home for all, no borders, no pipelines, no walls, queer families on safe ground. And people wrote about their future and they wrote about their ability to have families here. And I just want to take a moment to, even though this is a really terrible thing to be talking about and it's really sad and it's really disheartening, I wanted to remind people what they're fighting for and that there is a livable world and that we can attain it if we ask or fight for these major changes and not just sort of saying, oh, well, I don't want this pipeline here, but I don't really care about the rest of the fight, and it goes so far beyond that. So I know that a lot of people here might be here for a local reason. I started it for a local reason. I started because of the Nexus pipeline, but there's so many more opportunities to engage in the global fight with divestment, with supporting the camps that are happening around the world, with calling on cities to write community bills of rights, which bans, even though they're not always held up in court, it bans fracking infrastructure and fossil fuel infrastructure in their towns because they want their towns to be livable for the people who are there. And I, again, just want to say thank you guys so much for coming. I'm really happy that you all are fighting for something. And yeah, that's what I got.
Rachel, before we let her go, talk about what we're doing in Oberlin with the monitoring sessions.
For sure.
The things that we're doing for the community to bring them in, and things that you can do to make your community grow. So.
Yeah, so a big part of pipeline fighting, once pipeline is laid and as it's being laid, is to monitor what's going on and to hold pipeline companies accountable. EPA, when it is monitoring, can't be all along a 250-mile pipeline route at the exact same time. So citizens are a really big part of that monitoring effort, and we've been working to train people on what to look for when it comes to violations and train people on how to report those violations to the proper agencies. We've also been talking about emergency planning in the case of an evacuation or a leak or an explosion. And we've been talking about the Ohio Health Registry, which is a study being done on the health effects of fracking. So anybody who lives within a 5-mile radius of a pipeline can participate in that study. And I think that it's really important to sort of empower people to feel like, you know, even if they don't have control over the pipeline itself, they do have control over being an outside observer of that and trying to hold them as accountable as our system will currently let us hold them. So those...
Can I have a good sample of how that worked for us on Rover?
Yeah.
Okay, we caught them, they hit a plume. So there's all these dumps all over the place. Y'all know about a country dump. It's just, they just throw them out over here and over there. What happens are next to old gas stations, everything seeps down and makes a plume underneath the ground in the groundwater system. Then these companies come by and they start aggravating everything. Well, we were walking by their area where they were dewatering and all the water was coming out and it stunk like gasoline. So we called their DQ, the APA, we called everybody, their blood sister. It took a lot of tricks to get the remediation team down there, but we did it. And they tested the water and they shut them down in a day, and they stayed shut down for the next 2 months until they put a remediation system in that location. All went through carbon filters so that if they're going to be, the least they could do if they're going to be coming through our areas is doing studies and figuring out how to help the problems that we already have, not create more new ones. So it's an extremely effective way to be monitoring these guys. Not only does it do that, but also it gives you the ability to stand in a legitimate spot next to a pipeline on a road or on somebody's lawn, and then have them call the cops on you, and the cops come out and say, "Hi, how you doing, officers? What's up?" Yeah, they're wasting your time again? Yeah, they're wasting your time. They're not doing anything wrong. And that way you can still start talking to those people and dealing with some of those fears, because the pipeline guys will tell you all the time, you can't be here. You're not allowed to be here. They'll take pictures of you, they'll make fun of you, they'll get in your face with the camera, but as long as you know that you're in a perfectly legitimate area, utilize that to your advantage. Also talk to the neighbors and get permission from them to go up on their properties, and that creates a better neighborly relationship.
No, and when we did an action for Nexus, we were symbolically blocking the construction site on a day when they weren't working, so we were totally allowed to be there, and the pipeline security guy called the police, and the police came over and said, "Hey, how you guys doing? Here's my card if they give you any trouble, because they take it way too far and you're totally allowed to be here." So there are definitely allies to be found in surprising places, and you don't know that until you start having these conversations. So
it's just like today, the officers, the local police officers, when they come up, we brief them, we let them know why we're here, and share that information with them. I dropped off where we're going to be all day so that they knew, and that words were, "You call me if you need me." So this situation, I want to kind of stop for one moment, and would you share what took place across the road with us?
You know, the big guy that came down there with me, you know, I just went back to get a license plate number, you know, just find out who this clown was. And the big guy that came down there, he's a cousin of mine.
That's Heffelfinger.
That's Doug Heffelfinger. And he's
The one that signed.
And he's a cousin of ours.
Okay.
Distant.
The one that had the barking dog.
Okay.
That's the guy from the top of the hill.
Okay.
He told me, he says, what are you doing? I said,
closed up car.
just walking around, this is public property. And at first he says, what are you doing? I said, what the hell are you doing? And he says, you just swore at me. I says, that clown up there swore at my dog. And he says, what are you doing? And I said, just walking around, this is public property. And he said, you're not going to take that license. And I said, well, that's all right, I've already got information. And then I told him, I said, you know, we're cousins. And he said, well, how are we cousins? Well, then I explained to him. And I told him, I said, this is exactly what tears families up. And friends, and neighbors.
And we're going to see that as this fight goes on. We will see that.
And then once all these clowns with their barracks and stuff are gone, then the whole community's in an uproar with each other.
Yes.
And then he says, I suppose you ought to go back over to the rest of the building.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because that was just a little piece of what we see all over. Jimmy is here. Jimmy Hall.
You see, the thing about this is, they thought that they were antagonizing us. This one man was antagonizing. So I figured I'd just antagonize a little bit back. You know?
Normally we let
They don't
them
like it
go.
when you antagonize them.
If you saw how I de-escalated that, I got bigger. I got louder, you know, so that was my way of handling it.
You know, they can take pictures of our license plates up to the wellheads and all that stuff, and try to put a little fear into us.
He took a picture of her face.
Well, sometimes maybe you ought to just start taking pictures of them.
When we talked about the Nexus action that we were at,
And here's
I
the thing:
actually took
this
their
wife works for this Plexus company,
Plexus.
and it was a company car, or at least a company advertisement. And I think people ought to get a hold of the Plexus company and say, hey, these people are going around in a company advertised car swearing at people.
I'll put the number on social media, and we'll just call them and call them and call them.
Well, that's what he's afraid of. He says, don't be calling us and threatening us.
We will.
So they're a little worried now too.
Well, and that's because they see us present. So to keep things rolling, Rachel, you got everything? So to kind of wrap up, Rachel, we have a PowerPoint. Rachel's headed to Tanzania next month, but we shared that, and I promised Dave that you would have that. There's also a pipeline inspection sheet within that. We also have what to pack if you need to, for emergency, have your bag packed, what is important that you take with you. Rachel's done a super job on that, and we will share. So you have the email address, what you need, let us know, and we'll be glad to get that out to you. So, Teresa. Oh, here she is. Okay. Okay, thank you. Teresa is with the
We have to be at 4 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say.
I can't.
And she is with one of the Tri-County organizations that are working with us, and she's going to talk a little bit about the forest and what we are dealing with here in the community. So, do you want to Are you Annette? She never. That's fine. You know what you wanted to do. So if you've got it, Annette, I want just to tell them about the deforestation.
Yeah, come on.
In the forest, I think that would be great to share that with them, to show that that's that stability that we can create to, you know, sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, sometimes stopping a job site for 5 hours is a win for us.
Well, there's been this 6,000 acres here, 1,200 of it is the park, which cuts right through here. It's probably had more protection than any state Forest in the state of Ohio from a long battle 20-some years ago. But last year they just sort of threw all the protection out the window and have opened it up to logging again. But they're just doing pine thinnings. It's not real extreme, and comparatively to the big clear cuts they do in the other state forests, it's kind of benign. But we were at the Forest Open House 2 nights ago, which was clear in Findlay, Ohio, to find out what the future plans are. And this forest. So it's in a brand new Division of Forestry and Division of Wildlife and the Division of Oil and Gas for Ohio. And so first walking in, it's a really fancy building. And so I said, oh, you're right here connected with oil and gas. What are the plans here? Because there's about 57 active wells and underground storage here in the forest. And they just still play completely like they don't know a thing about it. And yet us private landowners that have wells in the same pipelines to our property, we've all received letters that Cabot wants to, amend the lease. So they're just kind of like trying to figure out where is the state on this, because they maybe in 2011 they opened the state lands to be fracked or logged, or even like university properties, all the state lands. But that kind of got a little bit of a repeal on the natural areas and preserves. So it's just kind of been in limbo for years. So I don't really know. But if the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, if they decided, oh, Cabot wants us to amend our leases here, this whole, all along the Clear Fork here, all up in the hills here, whole 6,000 acres could potentially become just like the guy that signed uphill here by McDonald's. The state, even though it's our land, the managers are in charge of what happens. So,
anything that we can do about that? Well, what should we do about that?
Well, we've got until like mid-August or late August to make comments to forestry concerning the management plans for this forest, or even any state forest. But you could make, and I've got the contacts. You could like put in your contacts like, we do not want to have it opened up, because they've come in here before and made like these giant football field openings when it used to be just like, still a canopy over it. And they've opened up, so they've done a lot of logging here because of the pipelines and because of the gas openings. So I would make comments like, we don't really want it logged, we'd like to have it preserved, and we definitely don't want you to sign with Cabot, sign over the what was Columbia that's now TransCanada. They have the same option to say no to them like a private landowner would.
It is Columbia and TransCanada now.
Yeah, Columbia is like defunct. It's now called TransCanada. Okay. So.
It would be super helpful to have that kind of information available so we could all give a consistent message. I don't know if you'd be able to provide some kind of synopsis that if we contact this Gmail address, that could be then given to us so that when we write our representatives and the heads of these departments, we're not all over the map, but giving a consistent message.
Yeah, and it's also good to do it individually. Like, for instance, last year when we had such an uproar about opening up the forest for logging again, say, for example, Ohio Environmental Council, which probably had thousands of members, and they counted that as one, so it's really good to like maybe say your organization or affiliation, but also as an individual, so that they count.
Right.
Because like in the other, like the southern, like Shawnee Forest or Zaleski State Forest, they're wanting to have ATV trails, which they haven't had them before. And so there's just not enough people to bag it. But the guy, our manager here, is like, boy, I don't want to open up a can of worms and ever offer that they would have them in this forest, because there would be just cake. I mean, it would never happen, trust me. Like, there would be such an outrage of like horse people, for instance. This is one of the most heavily used horse riding force in the state, and they would never want to have them shared at the same time. So I can get that information to that website and the address of the ODNR forestry offices and whatnot.
That would be helpful because there's so many layers to all of this that, you know, attending something like this opens your eyes, but I'm not going to absorb every detail. I'm going to need to see it in black and white tomorrow when I'm ready to sit down and write.
So what we can do is, when you email that, I will have a list of all of these organizations' contacts that you would be able to, contact them directly. So if it's something specific like deforestation that you want to know about, I'll make sure that Annette gets that to her group so we can handle that. And one of the things on deforestation also is the silt. I mean, they're clearing it, whether they put a pipeline in, a frack pad or whatever, but that silt is running into our rivers and streams, and that's causing problems with the underground life that's being smothered out. So there's a lot of reasons that we need to fight this. Now, do you have a petition up? Is there a petition?
No, we just had the open house Thursday night.
Okay, do we need a petition? Is that something?
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
you can have the opportunity to write to the Department of Natural Resources to go for some of this, what you'd like to see happen.
Okay, so if we have that information and the contact information, we're good, and you can help us with that. So you will see that periodically that we do causes. Right now there's one on the Ohio River for Osenka, which regulates the whatever points of entry of pollution come into the Ohio River, and these agencies have to rewrite the rules every few years. So that's when is our opportunity to step up and force change. And the last time Osenka did this, we had almost 100,000 different comments go in, and that was pretty impressive when you walk in. I mean, it wastes a tree, but we did have that many to walk in to hand it to them. Oil industry kind of tanked out a little bit during that time, and it went off the table. So we didn't get the changes that they wanted to make, but we did get our voices heard. So that there's another one by the 31st that we have to get in there. So y'all will have, if you contact us here, you will have like Friends for Environmental Justice, Hayesville Community on Fracked Gas, the Monroe Landowners Group. They have a private Facebook page that you can be approved of once you apply, and let them know where you met, who you are, and they will welcome you as well. And we share that information. We go to these different pages, and something I might find, then Kara's going to pick it up, she's going to post it, or it's going to end up somewhere that the word is getting out. So we'll do our best to keep that going.
Was the original intent of them logging those old pine trees out, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to try to reintroduce a lot of the original hardwoods?
Well,
the chestnut, possibly a chestnut grove. And
they have an experimental chestnut grove that's like bred with American chestnut and a little bit of Chinese chestnut to be resistant to the chestnut blight. It's not doing so great because they're supposed to take care of it. If you go see it, they're not doing well. But other areas are working on chestnut. It's not a matter of reintroducing hardwoods here. They just come in naturally. But what they were also saying is that white pine was not native here. But white pine, if you look at the early records, this area was notorious for white pine and hemlock. White pine is a native species in this forest.
But if you've ever seen, and I can understand a certain amount of this as far as getting rid of some of these pine trees, if you've ever seen a pine forest go up in flames, it's really, I can understand thinning out a pine forest and clearing the underbrush because, it goes up like that.
Well, especially when they have a lot of pine.
If they're trying to bring in the native oak and hickory and stuff like that to let it come up again, I have no problem with that. I don't know. I think that was maybe the original intent until I start hearing about all these gas pipelines and stuff. So
they like to open up the doors with one thing and then move things over, which is part of the trouble that we're running into. Is they get people to make agreements, and then they put all these other changes that happen that they offer people public comments for, but don't advertise it at all. And then 2 years later they say, oh, well, we gave you the opportunity to say something, so what's done is done now. And which is why you continuously have to keep the observational practice going at all levels of, you know, your county commissioners, your senators, the EPA, all the decisions that they're making, that you have to keep following up with them, because they just expect everybody to go away and not pay attention anymore. And then they will use tricks to really, you look at it overall and go, well, okay, I guess I should have known that in the first place.
When they timber, they bring in equipment and they disturb the land and it opens it up to and that is a problem. We've seen it in their where it's cracked and they don't have the money and the power to yeah, and there's just a lot of invasive species that they don't. Their Division of Forestry doesn't have attention, so
They're not doing anything real dramatic, and they are taking out some of the red pine, but anyway, it's not like they're just going in and doing it. I mean, they are trying to restore some of those areas. But on the other hand, there's some areas that are these white pines are planted in the 20s. They're magnificent, and they have another story of the heart that's already coming in. We're saying don't go back in there and disturb what you already have and bring invasives in. And those areas are very naturally fire resistant because they're so moist and they have a lot of rotted material. Then they come in and open up a really tough, dry with those slash on the ground.
So why that's so my is the water. And one of the things that we're seeing that's happening down in Belmont County is the trees are starting to die. And it's near a community where they have leased out the water to a fracking company. And then when their water tables drop, that fracking company sued them to take that water. We're seeing stands of trees that are dying now. So if they can have the tree roots and those roots go down as far as they can go to reach that water, if there's no water there, the trees are gonna die. If there's no water here, we're gonna die. So, do you have one of the rivers?
Well, I wanted to talk about sustainability.
Who are you and where are you from?
I'm Teresa Clark. I'm from Loudonville here. Very concerned about all these issues. We called our mayor before this meeting to find out about this sale of water. And one of the comments he said to me was, I like to stay warm. I want natural gas. We need this. This is inevitable. You know, we've got to have it. And I think the piece that we've all have a part of that in some way, you know, with the way we drive and heat our house, but we need to all look at how conservation and sustainability, because we all are doing something that is necessitating the need for these pipelines. With every single-use plastic bottle that we buy, this cracker plant that they're wanting to put down on the river is a real big deal also. And all these pipelines are piping down to this cracker plant, which is just horrendous. The Ohio River is already the most polluted river in the country, and they're wanting to take more water to develop this cracker plant. And everything that we do, every time we choose to go buy a reusable plastic water bottle, we are supporting that. We vote for that. And I think that's such an important piece that we all, every single day, need to be thinking about our action. Do we take our reusable water bottle and fill that up, or do we go stop at the gas station and take that plastic one-time use bottle? Because it is really horrendous, the amount of single-use plastic that we are using with all our straws and our lids, and all of that is part of this pipeline.
Photos from the ocean just make me sick.
Oh.
The photos of huge plastic deposits in the ocean.
Every day. You go into Taco Bell or McDonald's or anywhere, and people are just buying. It's all about mindlessness. People are just, when we're mindless, we make these decisions without thinking, and most people are doing that. As are the people who are signing off, hoping to get a big check, make this money that's going to be gone. So conservation, I'm just asking that everybody think about every day what you're doing, you know, just those things that add up to the necessity of these pipelines. So I just think that's a piece that we need to talk about more, because we can't say we don't want them and then we crank up our thermostat in the winter because we want to walk around in a t-shirt and we don't want to put on a sweater. So we burn wood. We don't have any natural gas because we don't want to be a part of that in every way that we can. We're looking at an electric vehicle. And I know there's always some piece to it, but we try to limit how much we drive, we carpool.
Straight razor instead of disposables.
Exactly.
I do.
And every one of those decisions makes a difference, and it does add up, because every time we are throwing that piece of plastic away, we're adding to the necessity for it.
It takes 1,000 years for one plastic spoon to disappear. 1,000 years.
It's just one spoon said 1 million people.
Yep, and every one of us, we just heard the figure that, what is it, every day 500,000 straws? Billion, 500 million straws are used in our country. And, you know, and so everywhere we go, we say no straws, and we tell them why. And if we all have a voice to say that everywhere we go, and we have a vote with our money, with everything we buy and everything we do. So just be mindful of that, of our piece being responsible for this water being used for this industry. Because as the mayor said when we called up, you're a part of it. Well, yeah, I am, but I'm going to try to do everything I can to lessen that so that I'm not. So.
You know, it's been about a half a dozen years ago when the coal controversy, and they wanted to shut down all the coal mines, and these steel companies were going to natural gas. And at that time, they said that there is enough natural gas in this country in storage wells to last well over 100 years. This natural gas that they're fracking now is going to be sold overseas. I mean, this is not for our benefit. So this Mr. Mayor down there is blowing smoke in somebody's face, you know, because naturally he heats with gas, and a lot of us do, and most of us probably, at least some kind of a gas product, whether it be propane or whatever, comes from the same basic areas. But there is well over, in these storage wells, well over 100 years worth of gas. These companies are blowing smoke, trying to, you know, this stuff is going to be sold overseas. I don't have a problem with somebody making a profit, but when it comes at the expense of the citizens and their property rights and the devaluation of their property values, then it hits the fan.
What you do need to know is these Cabot wells are being drilled in our community for 2 reasons. To supply gas to 2 new gas-fired power plants in Michigan, and the rest of it is going to Japan. That's why they're fracking. And that is the wrong reasons to have a community destroyed.
You know, we were sold the same crap when they wanted to put in all these nuclear power plants.
Yes.
You know?
That's the beginning of that. And Teresa, at the last meeting, one of the things that came out, she said that Mayor Strickland came up to her and said basically that we don't have injection wells in this community. Fracking injection wells, what happens when you do the fracking process, for those of you that don't know, one well pad can have anywhere up to 17 wells. Each well takes 4 to 7 million gallons of water. So, do you want to pick that up from there?
Me?
Yeah, are you ready for that?
A lot of what I was going to
talk
talk
about. Come up here so I can hear you.
A lot of what I was going to talk about.
Who are you and what do you
just got covered? So
and where are you coming
from? I will make mine
from?
really short because I saw Laura's here and she'll deal with the air.
Okay. Hi, Laura.
I am Kara Fitzgerald. I am with Monroe Township Landowners Coalition. I don't fall down the hill. Basically, what my topic was today was the effect that it has on our children. Essentially, as a community, you know, we keep hearing, oh, these people have involved in this, whether they want to be or not. When the people up on the hill that came for a visit signed, all of the area around them is now affected. Their children are affected. Their property will be affected. If you frack your property and you sign the lease, they have to take that stuff somewhere. That's going to go right through the line. The lines are going to go right through all of the neighbors' property. It's going to go right past your kids' playgrounds. It's going to go right past the school up the road. There's a school right by the hill. The safety issues are being avoided around the children. There's, the fracking, it goes beyond just your own property. And I think a lot of these people don't realize how much it impacts. If you've gone to the site in Green Township, the neighbors of the frack site, the neighbors came home and their trees were cut down. And he said, I said no to the fracking. They're like, well, we have to fix your pipe. We're updating your pipeline. And his trees were all logged out. He doesn't have any rights to his own property anymore. The rights of his property rights are annihilated when his neighbor uses his property rights to sign off that lease, claiming, I have the right to do whatever I want. And the commissioners at our last meeting said the same thing. We have landowner rights. They have a right to do what they want to with the property. Yes, but we have a right to protect our property when we have kids running where there's lines going right through their swing set, and I don't know if you went through in Ashland County when Rover went through there, the line went right around people's houses. They had a line and they had a big plan, and it looked like they were far away from all the houses. If you took some of the back roads and you looked at the pipeline, it was like actually going around people's houses and going around. They had no rights. They had absolutely no say. So the only thing that we can do at this point is talk to your neighbors and tell them we have rights as well. Our kids play. Our animals drink out of this water. Our kids play outside. We don't want to breathe this air and drink this water. We have just as many rights to our land as you do. Basically, that's my shortened version of my.
Do you want to address the health issues a little bit?
I think Laura.
Okay, you got that, Laura? Okay, all right. I wasn't sure. Thank you, Kara.
Can I just add one thing to that? People have to stop believing corporate America has your best interests at heart. They are money-making corporations. They're not here for you. They're not here for me. They don't give a damn about your kids. Your kids are just future consumers. That's all they are.
They do care about your kids. They would prefer them to be dumped down and not to society and not to
Okay, well, they also, you have to remember, cigarette companies put extra nicotine in cigarettes to get people hooked. That was definitely not in the interest of the public, okay? Taking land by eminent domain that's been in families for hundreds of years. We won't get into anything.
Okay, we've got two more speakers, and then we have a water service. Did anybody bring water from home? Did anybody catch that? Okay. So what we'll do afterwards is I'll collect the water, and then we're going to go down to the river, and we're going to have a ceremony that will be my first water ceremony, and I've been blessed to be able to do that. Our indigenous, from our person that was going to do the water ceremony was unable to join us today. She was coming in from out of state, so we have what we have, and we do what we do, and I'm honored to be able to do that. So what I would like to do is I would like to Laura Burns up. She's with Moms Clean Air Force. We've worked with her for many years. She's a part of our coalition, and she's a strong voice in our community. And then we will have another community member that is outraged from time to time speak with us. So, Laura, do you want to come over and tell them who you are and what you do?
So my name is Laura Burns. I'm with Moms Clean Air Force. I obviously don't know Mohican as well as I thought I did since I've been all over. But Moms Clean Air Force is a national organization, and Ohio is one of our chapters, and we talk a lot with families about air quality when it comes to pollution. So your children, and I know as you've already been discussing this this afternoon, children are going to be exposed to a lot more chemicals because just by nature of the fact that you live in the area where there's an increase in traffic from the diesel trucks before you even get to the actual fracking. So with your families, and I would really like to encourage you to begin with Dr. Deb Howden's baseline health screening so that you know where you are, because things that have come out of fracking areas, particularly over in Pennsylvania and in southeastern Ohio, are an increased rate in blood cancers, obviously respiratory problems, and cardiovascular symptoms that people are experiencing by nature of the fact that they were exposed to benzene and toluene and all the other hitchhiker pollutants that go along with primary gas being methane. So make sure that you get your health checked right from the very beginning so that you know what to be looking for, and when your health changes you have an accurate record of what is going on with your bodies. Make sure that you are calling your representatives and your congresspeople, because they need to be hearing from more than just the lobbyists who show up on a regular basis. And I know it feels discouraging to show up and see lobbyists in their offices before you, but you just keep going and you keep chipping away at it, because like the waters come through here and they have carved these beautiful lands for us, we need to keep chipping away at our electeds and make them understand that this is not what the general population wants.
That's all you get. All right, thank you. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit to that health registry. Kara, can you answer this? We have a date of the 28th and 29th of September. You can do a health registry in Loudonville. Are you available?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay, and this will be out on our Facebook group, but what we have is Dr. Deborah Howden is coming in. She is the founding director of Ohio Health Registry, and we would like volunteers to help us. We're looking at the library, and there's a little meeting room, a coffee shop upstairs that has a kitchen. We'll have some food there for the day, and then we will have these individual study rooms that we can take you aside and we can do your health registry. It takes about an hour, no appointment necessary, and we will be at the library all day. So it's until 4 o'clock. It's usually like I think they open at 9, so we'd be there 9 to 4 on the 29th, and we'll get that out to you. I live near pipelines. If you are within 5 miles of a pipeline, fracking pad, get this health study done. We want it on the children. Just like our baseline water testing, which we brought in, Cabot Oil comes to you. They're going to put a frack pack next door. They're obligated to test the water within 3,000 feet. They're going to have their baseline testing, and they're not going to test for what we are. So there's a couple different testing programs out there depending on what you can afford. So what we're looking at is being one step ahead of them with the baseline testing for water and with the baseline testing for health registry. So that's kind of what we're thinking that we need to do. And we work this together. You know, these are a lot of nonprofits coming in to help us, and sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad. And when we bring them in, that says it's good, that we really want to work with them and we really need their expertise. When we put it together a list to check for fracking chemicals that are in the water, there's up to 1,000 chemicals that can be in that water. We consulted our friends, our sister community over in Demick, Pennsylvania. We knew what they were finding in their water. We knew Cabot's formula. We knew what we needed to look for. When the report came out in the Times-Gazette, it came out a few chemicals. In what we know, in our area, we test for 45. And the health registry is mentioning 70. But we know, that's the ones we know about, but it's a trade secret. So we don't always know what chemicals that we're looking for. So that's one of the problems. So when we notice something that does not look right, that's when we need to speak up, step up, and reach out for help when you need it, because we're here to do that. So a little bit, I'm going to tell you, wrapping up things before Dave speaks. We need to continue these efforts as a community. We need to bring more people in. You need to attend meetings. And we are going to have more marches, and we're going to have more rallies. And we are going to, our elected officials in this community, they're signing these leases to allow their neighbors to be fracked. There's only one thing we can do is replace them. And you do that by finding somebody that you can support to put in that position, or running for office yourself and doing it better than what they did and represent the people and the voice of the people. So, Dave, if you would like to stand up a moment, tell them who you are and what you do.
Mission statement is that uniting to protect the historical environmental legacy of the Pleasant Valley, home to Malabar Farm and many residences. Asserting local control and landowners' rights, we try to protect our natural resources, air, land, water, and wildlife by using educational tools and legislative action. By carefully researching proposals by outside interests, we educate and advise local residents on the best use of the properties. We desire to have inclusive communities supported by all local people, protection of all the country. I was asked to talk, it's not this long, don't worry. It's big writing, okay? I was asked to talk about water. And in a study by Dr. Vangesh from Duke University, published in the journal Environmental Science, from 2005 to 2014, the USA used 250 billion gallons of water for fracking gas. Of that, 210 billion gallons were returned. That makes an 80% return on that. That's wastewater. We have to do something. Fracking a single well can take 3 to 9 million gallons of water. The Kamnik well on 2375 north of 39 and west of 511 is slated for 4.5 million gallons. With a single triaxle truck, which carries 8,000 gallons, that's going to be over 1,100 trips with that truck. We're planning on taking the water out of the Black Fork River at State Route 39 with 3 beautiful blue swimming pools there to hold the water. That's why I moved here, to see that. Muskingum Watershed sells water, and so does in the village of Loudonville. Loudonville has sold 6,500 gallons so far, 650,000 gallons so far. This is as much as fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool. They were a little smarter though than Muskingum. They charged them $6.50 for 1,000 gallons, versus Muskingum charges $5 for 1,000 gallons. So they've upped the price a little bit. With over 80% of the water returning that contains waste full of volatile organic chemicals, fracking alcohols and salts, and solids such as barium, it is economically easier and more profitable to put the water in wastewater injection wells at this point. This water is gone forever. It's never to return. And it's out of the water cycle forever. I ask that you support Senator Skickel's House Bill, Senate Bill 50, which will prohibit fracking waste from being injected in Ohio wells. Ohio is a dumping ground for wastewater fracking fluid from Pennsylvania and West Virginia. That's why they're getting all the earthquakes in Youngstown before. I went to school in Youngstown back in the 80s. We never had earthquakes there. Now they have them all the time. I was at a meeting and we were talking about water, and my neighbor brought up the fact that he called ODNR and said, they say there's never been a problem with water in Ohio. And I sent this out in an email about a month ago. But anyway, ask Brainbridge, Ohio, and they'll tell you differently in Geauga County. There were over 43 homes affected, with the one home getting blown off its foundation due to methane leak. company was Ohio Valley Energy. The ODNR investigation concluded the following as a result of the accident. It was a poor cement job on the well casing. Fracking of the well in light of the poor cement job compounded the problem. And then they shut in the well, capping it off for 31 days, causing the pressure in the well, which is normally around 30 psi, to rise to 300 psi, causing the gas to migrate out into the aquifers. There was over $1 million municipal water lines given all these properties in order to solve the problem. Of course, this all happened within a couple months. They got all their money and everything was fixed. 3 years until it was settled out. Thankfully, their local Ohio State representative stepped in and helped them out. I'm a guy who likes to dig around on the internet, and dug around on the Department of Environmental Protection in Pennsylvania. And there's a couple letters in here that they've had. And the first one is letter 327326. You can go look this up if you want. Last fall, September 20th, 2017, Cabot contaminated a well with methane. And they had to go in and re-drill that well. And they were all happy about it. They fixed the problem and did well. But I just wonder what those people had to go through to get that. Another letter, 303704, was a water testing result from another well contamination. It had methylene chloride. It's reasonably considered to be a carcinogen. Had tetrachloroethane, which is a suggestive evidence of carcinogen, and acetone, which can lead to liver damage. So those are 3 chemicals we know for sure they're in fracking fluid. There was also air foam dumped. It had 2-butyl-oxynethanol, causes harmful effects if fatal if swallowed or inhaled, and ethylene glycol also. This is from a Penn State law letter I found. LG35 is a fracking fluid. It's an anti-surfactant. It keeps the bubbles down while they send the fluid into the well. The hazmat form says it can cause shortness of breath, pneumonia, eye irritation, neurological depression, and seizures. Between September 16th and September 22nd, Cabot had 3 separate spills in Susquehanna County. LCG was spilled and eventually entered the Stevens Creek watershed, causing a fish kill. Cabot was shut down until they could come up with the new safety procedures to address this situation. I got this in my backyard. My neighbor's sign, my neighbor across the road sign. He said, if it doesn't turn out, Dave, I'll just move. Really? I'm going to have to look at this and you're going to move away. If it doesn't work out. I'm like, how unkind is it?
They don't care.
From $500,000 to $1 million to somebody, everything else disappears.
The royalties, if I was for this, as a businessman, I'd never sign it. 12.5%, which is the lowest allowed by law for the royalties, and $25 an acre to sign your land up. I know well of people who got $5,000 to $6,000 an acre and 20% royalties. This is not the right company to be for. Go on DEP website and look up for yourself all the problems with the spills and the poor cement casing jobs that are putting in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is horrible. Ohio's right behind it. And they tell you it hasn't happened in Ohio? Go up and ask Brainbridge Township about it. Thanks.
So that's a lot of bad stuff, right? But the fact that we're here and we're going to do something about it, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk to our people about it. We're going to let people know that we do not want this in our community. So we just keep doing that. Kind of throw something back at Rover. Rover's been my pipeline fight for forever. And right now, Rover is not in full production. Rover comes from Pennsylvania across the West Virginia Panhandle into Ohio, and they're lateral lines, so they're running lines under the Ohio River. There are 8 major pipelines running under the Ohio River, but they're not classified as a pipeline. They're a lateral line just to supply, to get to the hub so that they can ship it to us. So Rover becomes, at these hubs, Rover becomes these 2 42-inch pipelines coming out of Columbiana County. So when this happens, if you're dealing with Rover pipelines and you listen to what's going on, ODNR stopped it. ODNR challenged it when there was a slurry spill in Tuscarora County. They had a $2 million slurry spill on a 6.5-acre space. Everything's dead. Nothing will ever come back on that 6.5-acre space. This was one of our pristine water wetlands. So we dealt with that. There was 3 million gallons unaccounted for that ended up somewhere under the earth into an aquifer. We have no idea. So then that's supposed to be a bentonite clay that they use and it's supposed to be slippery to help those drills drill through wetlands and underwater. So this particular incident that they were dealing with, they were mixing diesel fuel in with it. Diesel fuel is not a part of the plan. They said they didn't do it. So they were forced to move that tainted soil. They moved it to a stone quarry, but then they had to move it again. So ODNR is holding up. They're talking with FERC, communicating with FERC, and that's the federal regulatory agency, and they're making them fix it. So Ohio's stepping up on this. Maybe they'll step up on some of the stuff that we have to deal with here. So if there's nothing else that we need to say, I thank everybody, and then I'm going to come around. Whoever wants to come to the water ceremony, we're going over to the river. Come join us, and it'll just be short and sweet. And then if you brought water from home, the purpose of the water ceremony, and my grandfather was full-blood Cherokee, so as Indigenous, I come to you to do the ceremony today with blessing.